How you going? Jason from Middle Aged Junkie here. Today I want to talk about the influence that some YouTube channels can have on our purchasing habits, and I want to focus in particular on that pedal show. Now, I'm a big fan of that pedal show. I've been watching it since 2016, which just happened to coincide with me deciding to move away from multi-effects and start building a pedal board using individual pedals again. YouTube guitar channels can really influence us to buy a lot of equipment, especially if you're like us middle-aged junkies and you've got a bit of cash to spend. Since I started watching that pedal show in 2016, I've been influenced to buy a lot of pedals that I either didn't know existed or wouldn't have thought to buy in the first place. And I'm going to run through a few of those now that I still own and that I still use. So these aren't in any particular order, but the first one I have here is the Plexi Drive Deluxe by Wampler. Now, I've had this since 2016, and I was influenced to buy it after watching an episode called Do You Think I'm Plexi? Now, in that episode, they run through a lot of Plexi style guitar pedals, and this wasn't actually the one I most wanted to buy out of that group. I really wanted to try the Carpe Diem, but they had only just come out. They were very hard to get a hold of here in Australia, and they were incredibly expensive. And I found the Plexi Drive, which was probably the one I was next most impressed with from that episode. And I got one fairly cheap, in very good condition, secondhand from the UK. And I've had it now for a while and I really like it. After watching an episode called 6 Awesome Flanges, I bought this, the Mua E-Lady, or sometimes it's known as the Elect Lady. And it's basically a clone of the Electro Harmonix Electric Mistress, which is a classic flanger pedal that's used by Andy Summer from The Police. Now, I never really liked flanges. This is the first one I've ever owned. What I've discovered is that I tend to like it more on clean guitar, where I'd mainly heard it on distorted guitar, and sometimes I thought I was listening to chorus, and it turns out it was actually a flanger. Now, this little thing was the very first pedal I ever did a Keep or Sell episode on, and to this day, it's still my most successful Keep or Sell episode, and it's a really great little unit, really worth the money. After watching a lot of the earlier episodes of that pedal show, one of the pedals that they frequently featured on the show was this, Strummin Big Sky. Now, prior to that, I'd never even really heard of Strummin. I didn't really even know these pedals existed. I know they're a bit of a cliche and everybody seems to use them these days, and the reason for that is because they're so bloody awesome. You can get so many different sorts of sounds out of these things. Now, I came very close to buying an RV500 by Boss. In the end, I went with the Strummin because, yeah, I just decided I was going to get a timeline, and I thought I'd get this too. I'm not disappointed. I probably need more time to sit down just with this pedal and go through and work on all my presets and absolutely fine tune it, but it's a brilliant pedal. It sounds amazing. Another pedal that they featured a lot in the early days of that pedal show was the Strummin Timeline. Now, I was super impressed with this on an episode where they had an original EP3 Echoplex tape delay, and they compared the Strummin Timeline and tried to sort of profile the EP3 using this. Now, there are a lot of delay pedals out there today that do tape delay, but tape delay is such a particular thing. There are so many variables when it comes to tape delays. There's the age of the tape, there's the age of the components within that, there is the quality of the tape. All of these things have a bearing on the sound of it. You know, tape delay can sound very crystal clear through to very, very crunchy, has warble, it has flutter, wow, and it also, my favorite type of tape delay is when it filters out the top and bottom end simultaneously. You kind of lose top end and bottom end with every repeat. And out of all the pedals that I've ever tried, this does that the best. This thing is just magic. The very first episode I ever saw of that pedal show was an episode called Is Chorus Rubbish or Do We Love It Really? And in that episode they featured Dan's CE1 chorus, the Boss CE1, which was the very first Boss pedal. And I was blown away with how good that thing sounds. Now, I own a Line 6 unit, which emulates that pedal, but it's nothing close to the real thing. Now, I went out after watching that episode. I couldn't get a CE1, obviously, so I bought myself an old 80s CE2, which I absolutely loved and used for a few years, until later that same year, Boss brought out this, which is the Boss CE2 Wazacraft, which has the CE1 mode. So I can flick between CE2, CE1, and the vibrato of the CE1 all in one pedal, and it does an absolutely amazing job. And I ended up selling my old green label made in Japan CE2 because it does the job and more. So I absolutely love it and couldn't live without it. A couple of years ago, they had Tor from TC Electronic come on the show and demo a bunch of new pedals that TC were bringing out. And a few of those were, for example, the Hall of Fame 2 and the Flashback 2. But one of them was a brand new pedal called the TC Pipeline Tap Tremolo. I was really intrigued by this thing, and I really like the idea of tap tempo in a tremolo pedal. So I eventually went out and bought one, and I did a keep or sell video using this pedal about a year ago. It's really, really, really nice. I love it how you can save your presets on there. I love the whole tone print thing. I'm a big fan of that. I think it's terrific. And but my only criticism is it would have been cool if they put a panner on there. So if you could pan it from left to right in stereo, would have been awesome. But still, I really, really like it. There was one episode that came out a couple of years ago that I just watched over and over and over again, and that was the episode when they had a real Leslie speaker. And I really, really love the sound of Leslie speakers because they provide this sound that's very hard to replicate, and it's very hard to put your finger on as well. And when they're in stereo and they're bouncing from speaker to speaker, it's quite an experience to play. And I was really impressed with two pedals on that particularly. One of them was the ventilator, and the other was the Strummin Lex. Now, the ventilator, I looked into buying that. It was very, very expensive at the time. I think they were going for about $600 or $700 Australian. That was out of my price range at the time. So I ended up buying one of these second hand in very, very good condition. And I tell you what, it probably would be my favorite modulation pedal that I own. I could probably get rid of my phases, flanger, choruses, and this could probably do all of that if I had to. Luckily, I don't have to. But I really, really like it, and I suppose I probably need. It's one of those pedals I probably should play more often than I do. The last pedal I want to talk about featured in an episode called 5 Modern Classic Overdrives into 3 Classic Amplifiers, and it also featured on an episode called Better Solo Tones, and that was the Zen Drive. Now, it wasn't this exact model. This is the Zen Drive Black Magic, which is a little bit more higher gain than a standard Zen Drive, but nonetheless, it sounds pretty much the same. It is one of the best overdrives you can get your hands on today. It's featuring on many, many pro players' boards for good reason, and I was just gobsmacked. I basically bought it because I wanted to try it, and I thought, well, I could probably resell it for as much as I bought it for because I got it so cheap. I was blown away by it, and it's been a mainstay on my board ever since, and that was probably about 8 months ago. So really love these. You got to check them out. They are killer. Hopefully they make that pedal show long into the future. I probably should keep a tighter grip on my wallet though, because I've spent probably a few $1,000s from watching these types of shows. But as a resource to find out what sort of pedals are out there and what they sound like and what they do, I think it's a very valuable resource to us as the consumer. And I'm hoping too that my channel is proving to be so for people as well. So if you like my content, please like and subscribe. Hit the bell if you want to know when I bring out videos. I try to bring them out every 2 weeks or so. You can join us on the Middle Age Gear Junkie Facebook page, and it's a community for gear junkies like you and me to post pictures of your gear and ask questions and see what other people are buying and selling and get opinions on things, and it's just a bit of fun. So please join us there as well. I'm Jason. Have a great day. See you later.